Welcome back to The Truth with Trinity, and I am your host, Trinity. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, I wanted to send you a warm welcome. Here, I talk about issues that happen within the Black community, hopefully for some resolution or at least some food for thought to go about your daily way. So, without further ado, I'd like to jump into this episode's topic, which is if I hit you, you better not holler. So, the human body has a natural defense mechanism to defend itself when someone's causing their body harm. This could be physically, verbal assault, and the list could go on. Yet, throughout history, especially when it is regarded to African Americans, any displeasure that we vocalize to our slave owners and people in position of power, the repercussion has always been, especially throughout history and slavery, some type of whipping or even death. So if you flinched, or if you had something to say that they didn't care for, or if you had an opinion that was outside of the opinion that they felt like you should have, this could result in a whipping or death. And we, are in 2021 now, and a lot of those methods are still being used, but with a twist. And I wanted to start off with talking about, in the media right now, a lot of people are at odds, and a lot of people are saying that, especially with the young black men that are dying, and also with the officer. So this was an actual officer, of the military services, him being pepper sprayed in Virginia, talking about that a lot of, well, a lot of white nationalists are justifying their death by saying they shouldn't have resisted arrest. And I wanted to talk about that for a minute. For example, when you talk about the Virginia officer that was pepper sprayed and harassed and profiled by the cops, there are commentators that are saying that he should have just stopped his car immediately, even while being in a wooded area. Now, from their opinion, and in regards to their lifestyle, a white person can stop anywhere and have a decent conversation or some type of dialogue that isn't resulting in murder. It may result in a ticket. If it's too harsh, what they're doing, violations, it may result in a civil arrest. But they fail to realize, as a black man or a woman, to be in a wooded area and the history behind that, because they fail and don't want to see it. That history has proven, when a black man or a woman, and especially black men, are in a wooded area, secluded area, and there's local authorities that have stopped you, that you have a higher chance of being lynched or killed. There's no witnesses around. There's no one around. So as black people, a lot of times we are taught to at least try to go in a well-lit area. So for people to come across, everyone has a right to their own opinion, but for people to come across and say, oh, that's just justification for him being pepper sprayed, because he failed to stop within that second that the cops, put their lights on, to signal for him to stop. No, I feel like it was a very intelligent move on the brother to go into a well-lit area where there can be some type of lighted area and some type of witnesses going on. Also, with the young brother that was murdered just a couple days ago in Minneapolis, um, they're pointing out his arrest record. And the thing is with that is, there are white people that have criminal records, and um, they are not treated, most of them are not treated or murdered unless they flat out violently come across to the police. And that's with a knife or a gun or something, a real gun. versus with the African Americans, just moving or a sudden movement can cause their death. And the thing is, that's what goes back into the if I hit you, you better not holler, because who's not going to be running for their life if you're dealing with a police system that has notoriously been known for murdering black people without any repercussions? And a lot of people say that that's bogus, but why was there ever a need to put body cams on the cops if there's not a history or some type of perpetual problem going on with the police force in this country? Another thing is, when you look at the verbiage and the language of America, when you hear them say, let's lock these criminals up, that's what that criminal deserves. When you hear those type of phrases, this is just another fancy term for them to say, that's what that black gets. Let's lock those blacks up. So they know they can't really come across and say Nigg, and the rest of the spelling. They know they can't come out and say that, but now they've come up with this fancy term. Let's lock this criminal up. That's what these criminals get. Well, if you were not a criminal, then you wouldn't have been treated like that. So who are they referring to? They're definitely not referring to their own white constituents when they use those phrases. So this is referring back to, if I hit you, you better not holler, because they say that there is less Caucasians that have criminal records, when the reality is there are many, many, many white people that commit criminal acts, but they're given a slap on the wrist. They have different type of expungement opportunities. Sometimes the charges aren't even, a lot of times the charges aren't even brought on to be able to be counted into the statistics of them being considered criminals. So when they refer to black people as criminals, that's just their way of saying that you don't belong in America, and whatever happens to you just happens because you're black and you're already a criminal. So this is the things that are going on in America. Also, what it means to be black in America is tiptoeing. So basically, like walking on fine glass in a system where if you complain about the prejudice practices that go on within the school systems, within the court systems, even at stores or wherever you go, you might get fired or you may lose your business. Okay, so they may cut off funding, if you choose to say anything against what they're doing. Meanwhile, if we as black people, if we exhibited those same attitudes and threats to their life, they would know right offhand that it was unfair and they're not going to tolerate it. So once again, why do we have to tolerate it though? Yet they say this is the home of the free and the brave. So it makes you think, they have this big plaque out about the land of liberty, but who is it really free for? And whose liberty are they really referring to? Okay, so one other thing is, if you help out your own kind, you're reprimanded in this country. So they're allowed to help out their own people, but if certain black people want to give back to their community, if they deem that you're helping out too much, they may cut off what you have as well. Well, we live in a society where everything is based on race. The media, housing, credit scores, police relations. This whole country was constructed on racial inequality and white supremacy. Yet, when there is a black person or a non-white person that points out the facts and the evidence of these issues, then there's a popular thing going on right now where you'll hear a lot of, not all white people, because some white people do recognize what's going on. But then you have a vast majority of white people that'll say, oh, you're pointing out something that doesn't exist. You're the one that's racist. Even though behind closed doors, they laugh and they, voice great delight in being able to have these privileges to be able to oppress people, but in the faces of those who make complaints about it, they'll say that you're just imagining things. So this is a way of like Masonic Jedi mind tricks. So, what you see is what you did not see. So there's a whole bunch of abracadabra going on in this country. The fact that they can do something right on camera. So there's murders going on right on camera, but they have the power, whatever power they claim they have, but whatever power they have, though, they're getting it off right now, to be able to commit murders and different racial slurs on camera and say that it doesn't exist, like your reality. So they're basically saying, as a black person, your reality does not exist. Um, Another thing is too, they say that slavery ended over 400 years ago, and why keep bringing it up? You know, and one of the things I wanted to point out about what was really hurtful about our slavery, because they'll bring up that many other races of people were enslaved, and which is true. But one of the things that really stands out about black people being enslaved is that, yes, there were killings, lynchings, and everything under the sun. Feeding our children to crocodiles. I mean, the list can go on. Tar and feather, cutting our women's bellies open while alive and killing them, with babies, taking out the babies out of their stomach. Men being tied to one horse, then another horse, and the horses being made to go in different directions to rip the black man's body apart. I mean, the list can go on and on and on, right? But one of the main things I think that, as black people, there's a problem too, is because um, there's been no other race on this earth that I've ever heard of that had their culture taken away. Usually, when you talk about the Holocaust survivors, when you talk about different races of people, they at least know their name when they're done being enslaved. They at least, have some type of trace of their ancestry and their language spoken, even if they were not allowed to speak that language, or they had to hide the trinkets and personal belongings from their culture. They made sure that they annihilated that from black people, that they have no trace of where they're from. We can say we're from Africa. We can say that we're from we're Native American, we're part Native American. There's so many different you know theories out there, because it was just fragmented and destroyed to a cinder so much that we don't know. And I think that's one of the big, atrocities that still remain with black people, that, they want to brush up underneath the rug. And I feel like, how dare America tell us to brush something up underneath the rug when that's all they left us with as far as our history is concerned. So you strip away our real history and then tell us not to talk about what we have left. So it's been a pleasure talking with you guys. I think this is the end right here. You can reach me at thetruthwithtrinity.com. You can also listen to my podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Anchor. And always remember, if you can't tell the truth with anyone else, you can with Trinity. Till next time, take care.